Hello everybody. Today I will be showing you how to create your very own SFTP server using AWS EC2 and then using Boomi to get, create, and query files. So the first thing that we need to do is go ahead and set up our SFTP server. So we're going to be doing that with AWS. So you should be logged into your AWS Management Console. We'll navigate to EC2. I am going to launch an instance and I will name it SFTP video. Here I will choose Red Hat. The free tier is suitable for this. And I'm also going to create a new key pair. And since I'm going to be using PuTTY to connect, I'll use a PPK format. Alright, I have this. I'm going to cut this and save it to this directory so I don't lose it. Make sure that you save it somewhere where you can find it. And this is very important. We want to make sure that we allow SSH traffic from anywhere for this use case. And from here, we can go ahead and launch our instance. All right, this should be pending. Should be up and running in a few minutes. While we wait for that, we can go ahead and get started with PuTTY. I'll go ahead and copy the host name. Now, the default user for EC2 Red Hat is EC2 user, so I can append the username in front of the host name as so. Let's see. Then the next thing we want to do is make sure that we specify our PPK, so I'll go ahead and do that. Desktop. Go back here. I will save this. Okay. This looks like it's running. Let's see if we have connectivity via SSH. I'll accept. Looks like we're in. Okay, this is good news. Let's go back to our slide to see what we need to do. All right. It's good practice to create a separate user other than the EC2 user, so I'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to copy this command, user add Boomi, user add Boomi. Okay, let's use sudo user add Boomi. That is done. Then I'm going to set the password, changing the password. Make sure it's something you remember. It says bad password, but for this, it should be suffice. Okay, so then I'm going to make sure that I could switch user to Boomi, so I'll do sudo su Boomi. Let's go ahead and check the password, so I'll do exit, switch user Boomi. It will prompt me for my password. Let's make sure it works. Okay, it works. Now, the next thing we need to do is go ahead and see if we can log into our SFTP server as the Boomi user. So For this, what I'd like to do is just test the connectivity using WinSCP. All right, so let's get our host name, copy, port, and our host username is Boomi. We'll put in our password we specified. Okay, so as you can see here, we are getting an error, no supported authentication methods available. Now, this is expected behavior. So what we need to do is go ahead and enable password authentication for Boomi, for the Boomi user. Actually, for all the users. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to run this command and edit the SSHD config file. The SSHD config file is basically the SSH server configuration file, and it's found in etc SSH. So let's go ahead and cd etc SSH. We could check the files. We can see that SSHD config is here, so I'm going to use vi. Actually, I'm going to make sure I do this as sudo, so sudo vi sshd config. Okay. Now, okay. So I'm going to exit out of Boomi. I'll do this as EC2 user just to make things a little bit easier. I could go ahead and add the Boomi user to a sudo group, but that would take some time. So let's go ahead and run the same command. Let's see which directory we're in. So cd etc ssh. Okay, sudo su shd config. Sorry, that was the wrong command. Now here we have the sshd config file. What I'm going to do is edit the password authentication. So here we see password authentication is set to no. What I'm going to do is hit the letter I to make sure we can insert. Then here I will simply change password authentication from no to yes. Then hit escape, WQ, which is save, and quit. I'm going to double check, make sure that this is set. Yes, okay. Looks good. Now what we need to do is restart the SSHD service. So I'm just going to Red Hat restart SSHD. So I'm just going to copy this command here, sudo system control restart SSHD service. If the file does not exist, for example, say E, it would tell us the service is not found, so that is an indicator that the service was restarted. Let's go ahead and try that again here. So I'm going to do a new session. I'll grab my host name, Boomi. Good, we're in. So this basically confirms that we have password authentication enabled. Now we can go ahead and set up a Boomi process to create to create files, get files, and query files. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new directory here, and I'm going to call it SFTP v2 test. Okay, and this is going to be our remote directory. All right, so we've established connectivity using password authentication. Now let's go ahead and create a Boomi process to we'll create a Boomi process to get files, create files, and query files. Now what I wanted to do first was just place a test file in, let's see where I'm at here, desktop. All right, so we have a file there. That's just going to be for our get. Now let's go ahead and create a process. I have a video here. I'm going to new component, process. All right, I'm going to start with no data. And since I'm going to be creating 3 separate flows, I'm going to create a branch shape. Now, the first thing I want to do when I get a file, you know what, let's start with the connector. So I'm going to set up the connector here. I'm going to create a new connection. I'm going to make sure that authentication type is username and password. I will grab the host name again. I'm going to set my user. Make sure I set my password as well. Now, the rest of these options some are optional. It just depends on the configuration you want. Later on in the video, I will be showing how to use certificate-based authentication, or that might come in a part 2. But for now, this is basically all we need. Just got to make sure we have the host, username, and password. So I'm going to call this Campusano video SFTP video connection. So I'll save and close that. Now I'm going to create a new operation. Actually, I'll close that. Make sure I'm setting this to get. And let's see. SFTP video get. Let's do that. Delete files after reading. No, I don't need that. Fail if unable to delete. Include all metadata. You could choose to select include all metadata, but I'm going to opt not to. So save. Now let's go ahead and import. And as I mentioned, you should have an atom that you can test with. All right, so it's finished. Just make sure you import as well. Okay, save and close. Okay. Now it would like us to import an ID. We can go ahead and set it here. I'm going to set it to the file that I transferred over, which is test01.txt. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now we can also use a set properties shape here. And what we want to do is search for a document property. We could do file name. Let me see. But let's just stick with remote directory. And as I mentioned, the remote directory will be SFTP v2 test. Now when you SSH into the server, you will automatically end up in the home Boomi directory, but we're just setting this here directly as well. So let's do that. And I'm going to implement the stop shape. So we can go ahead and test this. Actually, did I not name this? Video test. Interesting. Connection reset. Alright guys, it was something very silly. I forgot to add the port, so let's go ahead and try this again. Alright, let's check the connection data. That looks accurate. So we were able to grab one of the files, and with this you could process it any way you would like. You could send it to your email inbox, process the file however you may see fit. Okay, so the next thing we'd like to do is create a file in Boomi and send it to our SFTP. So I'm just going to create a quick test from Boomi. This is going to be our data. Then I will use a set properties, connectors, SFTP v2. We'll set the file name, something static, let's say test create 01.txt. We'll do the same for remote directory. That would be home Boomi SFTP v2 test. Okay. We'll add another connector. This will be create, and we'll go ahead and create a new operation. So create operation, action if file exists. Okay. We don't need to set anything here. Just import. Okay, so we can go ahead and save and close this. And connection data. Looks like we're good. We can verify this in WinSCP. We could see that the timestamps match up, 11:23. It's now 11:24. I can go ahead and grab this file. I could see it says test from Boomi, so that worked. Now our last branch will be a query, so this should be, let's see, we'll set properties. I think the only thing we need to do here is select the remote directory. Test, okay. Now another connector. We'll do query. Query will return application error responses. Now, I only have 2 files in there, but I believe if we do -1, that's as many as possible, so that's fine for now. I'm going to make sure just to import this as well. Sometimes we see errors thrown when there is no response. Oh, and that will also help us with the wildcard. So we're going to add a parameter here. File name, wildcard. Okay, this all looks good. I'll save and close. Okay. I'll connect this, and we can see here that our parameter needs to be set. So I'm going to import, and what I'm going to do is use a wildcard and .txt. Or let's see what happens if we just select a wildcard here. And logic stop. You could save. All right, let's just make sure. Let's refresh. Probably overwrit. Oh no, we're getting that. We're creating this file. See what happened here. Already exists in the remote directory, so we could go ahead and change the options there, but let's check the query. We got connection data, we got 2 documents. That's the first document. That's the test from Boomi. So looks like we are all good. What we can do here is create unique name. So now the next time I run this, we should see an additional file here. Yep, you could see that another one was written here. So it looks like we are all good here. We were able to get, create, and query using our newly set up SFTP server and connect it via Boomi. I will be making a part 2 that will shortly that will show us how to authenticate using a public key and private key. All right, that's all. Thank you.